My name is Andrew. And let me tell you this, when your wife finally admits she slept with her ex-boyfriend, after you've tracked her location through the Tesla you bought for her, there's only one thing left to do. Hand her the bill for the business loan she owes you and walk out of the marriage without looking back. Stephanie and I had been married for 8 years when the truth came out. She admitted she'd been spending her afternoons at her ex's apartment, and when she finally whispered that she had slept with him, something inside me just shut off. Stephanie and I met when I was 29 and she was 27. I was building a career as a commercial real estate developer, which meant long hours, business dinners, and constant networking. Stephanie worked in retail management. It was stable work, but I could tell she wanted more money, more status, more excitement. We first crossed paths at a mutual friend's housewarming party. We clicked right away. The chemistry was instant, and we convinced ourselves we were alike, both ambitious, both hungry to build something better. We started dating seriously only a few weeks later, and everything moved fast after that. Within a year, we were living together. 2 years in, I proposed. The wedding was beautiful, family, friends, smiles, promises. Afterward, we settled into what looked like an everyday married life. We bought a townhouse in suburban Denver, decorated it together, and planned a future. From the outside, we looked like a couple on the rise. The first few years of our marriage were very good. We were both focused on our careers and worked hard, but we always supported each other's goals. On weekends, we would spend time together. We also had an active social life, often going out with other couples and building friendships together. It really felt like we were living the perfect life. Stephanie had always been entrepreneurial. Even early in our marriage, she would talk about starting her own business someday. Her dream was to open a boutique clothing store. She would spend evenings researching business ideas, studying how small shops operated, and evaluating possible locations. It was apparent she was passionate about it, but she simply didn't have the money to get started. Around the 4th year of our marriage, after we finally reached a comfortable level of financial stability, Stephanie decided to pursue her dream. She found a retail space she loved, put together a detailed business plan, and did everything she needed to do, except one thing. She didn't have enough funding. Banks weren't willing to give a loan to someone starting a business for the first time, especially since she didn't have much collateral. Every meeting ended the same way. We're sorry, we can't approve this at the moment. Stephanie grew increasingly frustrated as her dream was delayed simply because she didn't have the capital. That was when I offered to loan her $50,000 to launch the business. I had the money available for my real estate investments, and I genuinely believed in her vision. I wanted her to succeed, not just for her sake, but for ours. Her success felt like it would be a victory for both of us. We decided to do everything properly. We hired an attorney to draft a formal loan agreement and set up clear repayment terms. We didn't want it to feel like a gift or a handout. It was a real business loan, even though it was between husband and wife. Stephanie was thankful and excited. She used the money to secure the shop space, buy inventory, and cover the first few months of operating expenses. About 6 months after I gave her the loan, she officially opened her boutique. Running the business took a huge amount of time and energy. Stephanie worked extremely long hours trying to get everything off the ground. She would open the shop early in the morning, stay until late at night, and spend weekends organizing inventory or helping customers. She was completely committed to making the boutique a success. I supported her as much as I could. I understood new businesses demanded almost nonstop effort. I encouraged her, gave her business advice when she wanted it, and used my own connections to help her whenever possible. But the long hours took a toll on us. I was working long days in real estate, and she was working long days at the boutique. We started seeing each other less and less. Most days, our only time together was a short conversation in the morning and a tired goodnight at the end of the day. We were both chasing our goals, but slowly drifting apart without realizing it. Over time, it was hard to point to a single moment when it started. Our marriage began to fall apart. At first, it was minor disagreements. But then the arguments became more frequent, louder, and more emotional. Most of them were about the same things: trust and communication. Stephanie changed. She became highly protective of her phone. When someone called her, she would step into another room to answer. And whenever she texted, she tilted the screen away so I couldn't see anything. It didn't feel like normal privacy anymore. It felt intentional. Whenever I asked simple, normal questions, she got defensive right away. She accused me of being controlling, jealous, or insecure. A harmless question could turn into a whole argument about trust, boundaries, and my behavior. I started to feel that Stephanie might be having something outside. She never fully got over her ex-boyfriend, Jeremy, before we got married. She had dated him for about 2 years before meeting me. Their relationship ended maybe 6 months before she and I started dating. She mentioned him a few times early in our relationship, but it always seemed casual, not emotional. But now, with her new secretive behavior, I began to wonder if some guy had slipped back into her life. The way she acted with her phone, the vague answers, the way she suddenly didn't want to talk about her past anymore. When his name came up, she tensed. When conversations veered toward her exes, she changed the subject immediately. It wasn't proof, but it was enough to make me suspicious. My job didn't help the situation. I was handling several development projects at once, working 60 hours a week, and coming home exhausted every night. I barely had the energy to think straight, let alone quietly investigate anything. Still, I tried to save our marriage. I suggested couples counseling, hoping a neutral third party might help us talk. I planned date nights and did things together like we used to. I tried approaching our communication problems calmly. But Stephanie always refused counseling. She insisted we didn't need outside help, that our issues were normal, and that I was overreacting. She said I made small things bigger than they needed to be. For months, the same pattern continued. The distance between us grew, the arguments increased, my suspicions deepened, and every concern I raised was shut down or dismissed by her. Then one Thursday afternoon, something unexpected happened. I finished a meeting earlier than planned and decided to come home instead of returning to the office. I walked into the house around 3 o'clock, hours earlier than usual. The house was empty. Stephanie's car wasn't in the garage. On its own, that wasn't strange. She could have been at her shop or running errands. But when I called the shop, the representative told me she had left for home because she felt sick. I waited, did a little work on my laptop, called her, no answer, texted her, no reply. She finally came through the door around 8 that night, acting completely normal, like nothing unusual had happened. I asked where she'd been. She gave the same explanation she always gave whenever she disappeared. I was at Rachel's place. We were hanging out, and I lost track of time. Rachel is her best friend. I had met her a couple of times. But this time, something about the excuse didn't make sense, but I didn't push. I just nodded, pretending to believe her. After dinner, she went to the bedroom to shower and said she was tired. While she was occupied, I walked quietly into the garage. While I was standing there, I remembered that the Tesla Model 3 I had bought her a year earlier had full GPS tracking and detailed trip logs, features I had set up myself. I had full access to everything. Every route, every stop, every timestamp. I opened the Tesla app, went to the trip history, and pulled up the driving record for that day. The truth was in front of me immediately. She hadn't been at Rachel's place at all because I knew Rachel's address. Stephanie had asked me to pick her up from there when her old car broke down many months ago. The vehicle had been parked from about 1:30 p.m. to 7:45 p.m. at an address I didn't recognize, an apartment building across town. A location she had never once mentioned. I was sick to my stomach. This was the first real evidence I'd ever seen. Not a guess, not a feeling, not overthinking. A clear proof that she had lied. I took screenshots of everything. The route map, the address, the timestamps, and saved them. Then I backed them up to cloud storage. My first instinct was to rush inside, confront her, demand the truth, and end the lies. But I stopped myself. My emotions were too high. A sudden confrontation could push her into another story, another excuse, maybe even hiding more evidence. I told myself, wait Watch. Confirm. Don't act yet. I walked back inside and pretended everything was normal. Stephanie was already in bed, turned to the side. I slid in next to her, planning what I would do next. The next morning, Stephanie left for her boutique at around 9:30, the same way she always did every day. She kissed me on the cheek, grabbed her handbag, and said she had inventory work to finish. She mentioned she might stay late since it was one of those busy days. I drove to my office, but my mind wasn't there. I kept glancing at my phone instead of my computer. The Tesla app was open the entire time. Around 1 o'clock, I rechecked her location and saw that the car had left the boutique. I watched the little icon move across Denver in real time. It was heading in the exact same direction it had gone the day before. Then the car stopped at the exact same address. She was at the same friend Rachel's house she told me about. This wasn't a one-time thing anymore. It wasn't bad timing or a coincidence. It was a pattern, and the beginning of proof. I stood up from my desk, grabbed my keys, and told my assistant I had an emergency. I didn't explain, and he didn't ask. I drove across town, using the app's GPS to guide me straight there. 20 minutes later, I turned onto a quiet residential street. And there it was, Stephanie's black Tesla, looking unmistakable under the shade of a tree, parked right outside a clean, modern semi-detached house. I sat in my car for a moment. I needed to steady myself before stepping into whatever waited behind those walls. I knew that once I confirmed the truth, I could never go back to how things were. Finally, I got out of the car and walked toward the entrance. When I reached the door, I paused. I could hear faint music inside. I knocked 3 times. I heard movement almost immediately. Someone walked to the door. Then it opened. Jeremy, Stephanie's ex-boyfriend. I recognized him instantly from old pictures she'd shown me years ago, back when she used to talk about her past openly. He froze the second he saw me. He looked like someone who had just been caught doing something he knew was wrong. His mouth opened a little, but no sound came out. Oddly, I felt calm. I asked him directly, "Where's my wife?" "I want to see her." He stuttered. I don't know what you're talking about. Nobody's here." I pointed toward the street. "Her car is parked right there. I watched her drive here. I know she's inside." His panic grew instantly. His eyes darted back into the house, then at me, then back inside again. It was the look of someone trapped, someone deciding whether to lie harder or run. Then he made his choice. He stepped back, telling me to go away, and slammed the door shut. Hard. I heard the lock click immediately afterward. I stood there, staring at the closed door. The drama told me everything I needed to know. Stephanie was inside with him, and they were both so terrified of being caught that their only reaction was to hide like guilty teenagers. I didn't knock again. I didn't raise my voice or make a scene. I simply turned around and walked back to my car. When I sat down behind the wheel, I just stared ahead, trying to absorb what had happened. I had suspected this for months, but now I had undeniable proof. My wife was having an affair, she had lied to me again and again, and I had just had the door slammed in my face by the man she was cheating with. I drove home feeling completely numb, uncertain about what I had to do next. Then I got home and waited. I sat alone in the living room, thinking about how 8 years of marriage could fall apart in a single day. Stephanie walked in around 7:30. She tried to act normal, keys on the table, purse on the chair, but I could see how nervous she was. Her eyes wouldn't meet mine for more than a second. When she opened her mouth to speak, I didn't let her. I asked, calmly but directly, "Is your ex's place the same place you went yesterday?" "The place you told me was Rachel's house." Her whole body went still. She knew that question was coming. The silence between us grew heavy. I could see her thinking hard, trying to figure out how to wiggle herself out of this situation. I raised my voice, sharper this time. "Answer me." She flinched like I'd slapped her. Then she said quietly, without looking up, "Yes." That one word was enough. It confirmed everything. The lies, the excuses, the secret visits to Jeremy's apartment. But I needed the final piece, even though I already knew the answer. "Did you sleep with him?" Her eyes filled with tears. When she spoke, her voice was small and broken. I slept with him. You would think hearing that would crush me. Anger, heartbreak, something explosive. But I felt none of that, just a cold, heavy certainty. We were finished. I said as calmly as I could, "Congratulations. Here's your $50,000 love bill. The loan is due. You'll be hearing from my lawyer." Her mouth fell open. She looked from the paper to me, trying to catch up. "I am so sorry. You can't just." But I was already done. I walked to the bedroom and started packing a bag. I didn't argue. I didn't defend my choice. I didn't ask for more details. 8 years or not, I was finished with explanations, excuses, and betrayal. Stephanie followed me around the room, crying and talking nonstop. "It was a mistake. I was confused you're throwing everything away." I didn't answer a single word. I zipped up my bag, walked past her, and left the house. That night, I checked into a hotel. I needed space, silence, and a room where the air didn't feel heavy with lies. The next morning, I called my attorney, the one who usually handled my real estate deals. I trusted him, so I asked if he knew a good lawyer who specialized in divorce cases. He gave me a recommendation, and I scheduled an emergency appointment for that same afternoon. I met the divorce attorney in his downtown office. I sat down and explained everything from the beginning, the lies, the affair, the loan, and how things had fallen apart. After listening carefully, the attorney pointed out that the business loan had nothing to do with the divorce. Because Stephanie had signed a formal loan agreement, it was legally binding. That meant she owed the money, no matter what happened between us personally. He advised me to take 2 steps at the same time. 1. File for divorce immediately, and 2. Start the legal process of collecting a loan. I agreed right away. I wanted both things moving forward as quickly as possible, with no more delays or excuses. He assured me he would begin preparing everything. Over the next several days, he put together a complete divorce petition. It included all the details of our marriage, a list of our assets, and a clear explanation of how the marriage had broken down. He also added the loan agreement and the bank records showing the $50,000 transfer to Stephanie's business account. He then prepared a formal demand letter for repayment of the loan. Before taking the matter to court, the law required that Stephanie be given a chance to repay the debt voluntarily. The letter served as an official notice that repayment was expected. About a week after I had moved out of the house, the attorney finished everything. The divorce petition and the loan demand letter were ready to be given to her. I decided to hand the documents to Stephanie myself. I needed her to see that I was absolutely serious, that this wasn't an argument or a warning. This was the end. I went to the house on a Tuesday evening. Stephanie was home and seemed hopeful, almost relieved to see me. It was obvious she expected a conversation about reconciliation. Her expression changed the moment she noticed the folder in my hand. I handed her the divorce papers first. I watched her face as she read the first few pages. I could see the shock grow as she realized these were real legal documents, officially filed and officially ending our marriage. This wasn't a bluff. She looked up at me with wide eyes. "You're really doing this? You're divorcing me over a mistake." I answered calmly, without raising my voice. This wasn't a mistake. This was months of lies and betrayal. You chose someone else, and you hid it from me again and again. Yes, I'm really doing this. Then I handed her the second document, the loan demand letter. She skimmed through it, her face tightening with panic. "You're actually coming after me for the business loan? That money was supposed to help build our future." I corrected her immediately. "It was a loan. You signed an agreement with clear repayment terms. The money is owed whether we stay married or not. You can either arrange repayment or I'll take it to court." She tried everything after that, apologizing, crying, saying she had been confused, insisting the other man meant nothing, saying she loved me and wanted to fix our marriage. But I was done. I felt nothing but exhaustion. I told her that from this point on, all communication would go through attorneys. She needed to hire her own lawyer as soon as possible. The divorce and the loan collection would continue no matter how she felt about it. When I left the house that night, I knew I would never live there again. I told her I would arrange to pick up the rest of my things through the attorneys. I was finished with direct contact. I was done with Stephanie for good. The divorce process lasted almost 9 months from start to finish. During that time, Stephanie hired a lawyer who tried every argument possible. Her attorney claimed that the money I loaned her for her business should be treated as a marital gift, rather than a loan she had to repay. They argued that my GPS tracking of her Tesla was an invasion of her privacy. They even tried to paint me as bitter and vengeful. My lawyer responded professionally. The loan agreement was written, signed, and very clear. The Tesla was marital property, which meant I had every legal right to track it. And since Stephanie had already admitted to cheating, her infidelity was considered relevant to how certain assets would be divided. In the end, the court agreed with almost everything on my side. The judge ruled that the loan was a real debt, not something erased by marriage. The GPS evidence was allowed in court, and Stephanie's cheating did affect how the contested marital assets were split. The final settlement worked slightly in my favor. The court approved a structured repayment plan for the loan. Stephanie would have to make monthly payments for several years until the full amount and interest was paid back. It wasn't the perfect outcome, but it was far better than nothing. And if she ever refused to pay, the court could enforce it through wage garnishment. The divorce officially ended on a gloomy Wednesday in March. I signed the last set of papers, handed them to the clerk, and walked out. Stephanie tried to speak to me in the courthouse hallway afterward. She stepped forward with tears in her eyes, like she wanted one last chance to explain or apologize. I didn't say a word. I simply turned away and kept walking. I was finished. She had destroyed every chance at trust, connection, or respect. To me, she had become nothing more than someone from my past, a person who still owed me money. Now, looking back almost 18 months after finding her at Jeremy's apartment, and a full year after the divorce was finalized, I see everything with more clarity. I learned that technology can reveal the truth that suspicion alone can't prove. Tracking her Tesla showed me exactly where she was going and what she was doing. Without that data, I might still be doubting myself. I learned that business deals between spouses should never be casual. The lawyer-prepared loan agreement with clear repayment terms ultimately protected me financially. Treating the loan like a real business transaction, not just a favor, made it enforceable in court. I learned that staying calm is more potent than yelling. My quiet reaction when she admitted everything made it clear the relationship was over. Sometimes silence says more than shouting ever could. I learned that cheating usually exposes problems that were already there. Stephanie and I had been drifting apart for years. The affair with Jeremy wasn't the cause of our marriage failing. It was a symptom of a relationship that had already died. Most importantly, I learned that some betrayals end things permanently. Her constant lying, combined with cheating with her ex-boyfriend, destroyed any chance of repair. Walking away immediately was healthier than trying to rebuild something that was already broken. Some people told me I was being harsh by insisting she repay the loan while we were divorcing. They thought going after the money made me cold. But the loan was a real business deal. It was money I gave her with a written promise she would pay it back. Her cheating didn't erase the debt. She used that money to build a business that she still benefits from today. She still owes it, simple as that. Others agreed completely with how I handled the situation. They said she broke the marriage and broke the business agreement, so holding her accountable for both was fair. They said that staying calm and being methodical would protect me in the long run. Today, I am entirely at peace with everything I did. Leaving as soon as I confirmed the truth was the right choice. Having the loan properly documented saved me financially. Using technology to verify my suspicions was reasonable given the circumstances. I don't feel happy about her struggles, and I don't wish her harm. I simply feel nothing. She's a chapter of my life that's closed, someone who still owes me money and nothing more. If you were in my position, what would you have done? And while you're at it, like and share this with someone who might need to hear it.